monthly CRA meeting. Calling this meeting to order, and haven't noted we just have one commissioner absent, Dr. LaRose is excused. Everybody else is here. I'm going to call on the CRA director to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on tonight's agenda is approval of the CRA minutes from the 12th of March 2018. Could I have action, please, by commissioners?
Mr. President, motion to approve March minutes from last meeting.
I'll second.
Have motion second to approve the CRA minutes. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead,
there
Mr.
need to
Blocker.
be some corrections.
Would you identify those, please, Mr. Blocker?
Number 1, on page 1 of the CRA meeting, the status says I was absent. I disagree 1,000%. Also, I move over to page 3, no page 2.
We got that correction, right?
You got that, I'm hoping, and also it says that Mr. Whidden made 2 seconds on that same thing.
What page is that on, Mr. Blocker, again?
Right there. Page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah, if you second it, bring your second down here.
Yeah, and I know.
I didn't know you was doing that.
I didn't.
Okay.
I looked at that and I said, I don't remember doing that.
Mr. Blocker, this means you're in attendance on the board.
Yeah, I see that, the way it says.
This is the staff's attendance,
I understand.
and this is if any of the board were absent, they would be printed over here. There's no names under absence. There's
Well,
no absent.
I follow the line across,
No.
and I don't like it. Okay, but then go to the next page,
Okay?
where Mr. Hayes' motion approved the contract and Mr. Whidden second.
I don't believe that's correct.
I know. Then following down there at the bottom, Mr. Hayes made another motion. Same thing again. Mr. Whidden second.
I'll have to look at the secretary, but
There you go.
Okay, let's find out who did the second. I would have to say at this point, we're not knowing who really did the second, we can't approve the minutes at this point.
That's my point.
So,
we will approve the
Yeah,
minutes,
approve them.
Recording,
all right,
and then bring them back to
bring
you
them back in the next meeting. All right, sounds like a deal. Okay, at this point, is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the CRA commissioners? Anybody in the audience would like to address CRA commissioners? I don't see anybody who wants to do that. We're moving on to number 5, old business. Next site, program, agreement, and contract. I believe, Ms. Elisa, you're going to address that?
Yes, sir. Okay. As we had mentioned before, we went over Mr. Blocker. Oh, no. Sorry, Mr. Branch.
We forgave you, dear.
You know, they both start with a B, same thing. Mr. Branch made the presentation, and y'all have the contract in your packet that he sent us, and we need to, at this point, if there's any questions you have at this time, he is here. We do need to, there is a MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, that we came up with regarding the individual split. If y'all agree to the next site contract, then the Memorandum of Agreement that is attached to it or behind it is agreement to the split that we would make with the city on the funds that we would pay.
How much?
It's on terms of agreement, it's on your Memorandum of Agreement.
Mr. Gautney, please address the chairman before you speak out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I can go ahead and answer that. We're going to do a 70-30 split with the city. City pays 70% of the $22,000, and the CRA will pay, and that 17% of the city is $15,400. The CRA will pay 30%, which will be $6,300. And that's what the memorandum states. If y'all approve this contract in the council meeting tonight, then this memorandum covers what the CRA will contract. Now, there is one thing that our wonderful lawyer even pointed out. We were sitting there thinking about this. This does not say, because the city contract is 3 years, is a 3-year contract. But ours, what we might want to add in this, and we just discussed it a little while ago, that the CRA has a yearly renewal, because if every year we need to renegotiate the percentage and make sure that we think the percentage and that the CRA should still pay toward this contract. And I would highly suggest that we probably include that in the memorandum, that we, every year, we need to revote on the split with the city. But that's up to y'all. If y'all want, we can redo this. We just discussed it a little while ago, and Carol mentioned we probably need to do that, include that.
Mr. Chairman.
Comments and questions, go ahead. Mr. Fairclough.
I understand the review, but the 22,000 will remain constant. Is that
Yes, sir. It will remain constant. The contract is with the city. The CRA, y'all are agreeing to pay a 30% of the contract. So we're just suggesting that, and odds are, and I have no doubt they'll do a great job. I think we'll probably renew it every year, but I just think the CRA board needs to have that option to renew the financial split obligation that we have with the city on that. But that's up to y'all. If y'all want to leave it as is, we can move forward with it as is, or we can add that and and that doesn't affect the approval of the next site. This is just on our portion of agreement.
Yes, Mr. Lawson, go ahead.
Well, my question is what she's addressing there, but it's kind of a little gray there where in the conversation there, what it just says, client agrees to pay. Now, the client, we talking about the CRA or the city? So this clarifies it.
The city is the client.
That is correct.
With next site, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's not noted, it just says the client, but the
Yeah,
client
the
is the city.
contract is with the city.
Yes.
The CRA is just agreeing to pay a portion of
Sure,
it
I
because
understand.
we're going to benefit from this contract.
But I just looked at that thing and I said, well, why didn't they put city in
Well,
parentheses there?
at the top, if you say this agreement is made between next site and the city of Crestview.
Right, I see it
So
later
this
on.
contract has nothing to do with the CRA board. The CRA board is just agreeing to pay a portion of it.
I understand.
Mr. Cox, you had a question or comment?
Yes, some clarification on number 2, time of performance. Should that verbiage not be in there if we're wanting an annual contract with annual renewal?
This is with the
Both the-
city. The annual renewal is just whether
Well,
the
it's
CRA is
gonna
going to
come
pay.
up.
This does not, and this is the city's contract. Our annual renewal would just be our agreement with the city, not with Next Site. We don't have an agreement with Next Site,
That's
just the
what-
city does.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then the question is number 2 applicable
Yes,
to the
because this
CRA?
is, that's for the city.
As
This is,
stated.
yeah, this is for the city to approve, not the CRA. So when y'all go in the city council meeting, then y'all will discuss this. Because this contract is not with the CRA. The only thing we're gonna do every year is, if y'all choose, renegotiate whether we pay a percentage of the actual contract. I'm sorry, is that answering your question, or do I need to make it more clear?
Somewhat,
I'm sorry?
somewhat.
And we don't have to renegotiate every year with the city. If y'all want to just leave it as is, then for the term of the contract that Next Site has with the city will equate how much we pay the city for the contract.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Cotney.
I would like to make a motion that we do it on a yearly basis. Because if you don't, it's done automatically renewed. And, why now all we're doing is, we're paying $24,000 to somebody.
No, but the renewal is with the city, not with Next
I know
Site.
that,
Yeah,
I know
okay.
that.
I just want to make sure, yeah, if y'all want, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, he's saying that he wants the CRA to renegotiate our terms with the city on an annual basis. I just want to make sure nobody thinks that we're negotiating with, CRA board does not negotiate anything with the Next Site. This negotiation is just with the city and how much we pay.
I think you clarified if you would say the only thing that the CRA is doing this evening is approving the memorandum of agreement with the city.
That,
What the
okay.
split's gonna be.
What he said.
And we're getting wrapped around the axle over the
Yeah.
contract, when the contract's between the city and Next Sites.
Yes.
And all we wanna do is come to an agreement, 70-30 split with the MOU.
With the city.
Okay.
That's all this is that agreement with the
Don't
city.
get that? Okay.
Sure.
If y'all want to
Yeah,
leave
go
it
ahead,
as is,
Mr.
that's fine.
No, I just say that's clear.
Oh, okay. But you did say we needed some additional verbiage.
If you want to
And so
renegotiate
we're
with the
not-
city, if you want to renegotiate how much we pay, that we pay, stay in this agreement with the city, this right here says, for 3 years, we will agree to pay our portion with the city of this contract. That's what this is saying. If y'all want the CRA to be able to review it annually, whether we support, and pay for our portion every year, then we need to
And that's-
redo
That's what
this.
I'm hearing we were saying.
Is that what you're saying?
We want to annually look at the relationship between the CRA and the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need that verbiage in the MOU.
Right.
I don't see how we can prove that tonight.
If y'all want to do that.
Well,
Carol. Yes, go
Chairman,
ahead,
if
go
I
ahead,
might-
Dr. Leo.
so the contract with Next Site's between the city and Next Site.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be clear. If it's not, we can define the client as the city. So then, what you're approving as the board would be the memorandum between the city and the
Right.
CRA. And we can add a line in that memorandum per your motion tonight to say that the CRA is gonna review this every year to see if they want to continue to be part of this $22,000 payment or not. And if they do, if they still want to do it at that 30%. In other words, it'll come before the CRA board as an option every year for them to approve it or not, based on funding availability and all those things. So you will have the protection of whatever the city council approves, deciding every year if you want to approve the CRA's participation in that contract and paying for it. So I would just, we could do it tonight by just voting on an amendment to the memorandum of agreement.
Okay,
with
that's
that
what I
added
want to clear.
statement.
Is that only we have that amendment, we can vote on it
Yes, sir.
tonight. Okay. All right, now I could, any more comments or questions? Not a call for action. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Call.
I understand that the city is the client.
Yes, sir.
Right. But if the CRA has the opportunity to approve it or not approve it,
Not the contract.
Not the
Split.
contract.
The
I mean,
memorandum.
about the city.
well, that's what I'm saying. How can that be if the city is the client? I thought that was discussion, was the CRA would have the opportunity to review it. And if the city is a client, I don't know what ground would be gained or lost.
What we'll review, Mr. Fairclough, is a split, if we're gonna pay 30% of that
Oh, okay,
contract.
all
That's
right.
it, that's the contract.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
All right. Can I have action then by Commissioner, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Davis.
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the next site, MOU from CRA, not the next site, but the memorandum of understanding between the city and the CRA, concerning next site, and that it be reviewed, every year by the CRA board.
Second.
All right, we got a motion second now that we're going to approve the memorandum of agreement between the city and the CRA with an annual review by the CRA on the split. Any more discussion? If not, please go to vote and just signify by saying aye if you're in favor of it.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay,
Okay, so we have, how many we have here? 6? We have 5, 4, and 1 opposed. And motion carries. All right, CRA assurances.
As we discussed in the last meeting, last month, we were talking about adding to the CRA assurances, separating of duties between administration and finance options. And y'all had agreed that we would separate the two. This is just the assurances that needs to be approved. And all it's doing is separating administrative duties and finance duties. And the finance duties will go over to whatever the administrator was doing regarding finances. Now the finance director will be doing the finances. And all that's doing is separating the two duties. The reporting will still be with the administrator. It's just the finance work will be done through finance department. And that's what this is for y'all to vote on. The assurance y'all agreed to last time is now needs to be approved, if y'all would like to.
Comments, questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Do we have motion second to approve for discussion? I would like to get an input from the CRA administrator. And also after that, the CRA attorney. Just make sure we're going down the right path here.
Gentlemen, I have reviewed the proposed assurances, and I think it is leaving lacking within the oversight. With Ordinance 1598, that transferred the funding and the programmatic responsibilities to the CRA. And those assurances were created for the CRA funds to be safeguarded, managed, transparent, and operational oversight. And if you have read those assurances, the original Declaration of Assurances, we can show where these have actually changed. Where you're pulling out the property of the administrator within the assurances, you are removing your liaison between the city and the CRA. The liaison that is actually assured out in Section 9 as being the oversight representative. In your, if you go through the different recitals, in Section 4, you were actually, the accounting instruments were signed by a chairman, your vice chairman, and your administrator. The next change where you have comes in Section 6, which comes through, which comes into being. The way you got your administrator is because of your change in Section 2-107. General agency oversight will be with the City Council as the agency governing body and any city designated department. The recitals actually appointed the Growth Management Director, Administrative Assistant, will be designated as the city's direct oversight representative in support of the CRA's administration and administrative needs. Gentlemen, your administration involves financial attributes. Not so much the day-to-day preparation of it, but for your oversight and your protection. There are several other elements in your assurances where you are actually limiting your powers and your oversight. You're being, when you remove your administrator, which is the person between your council board, or your council and your board, you're eliminating not only your oversight for those two agencies, but the tandem person that's going to run between them to know what's going on at each agency to make sure that it's fully reported to both agencies. There is actually one of ours where the communication actually stems in 7, where it is required for the CRA director to actually provide the financial reconciliation of funds and verify them by CPA, and then have those reconciliations and your expenditures match the policies and the procedures of the CRA plan. You have now omitted that particular area. The only one that will be judging if the financial endeavors will be solely resting on your CRA director. In your original, those financial documents were submitted to the Growth Management Director and then forwarded to the city clerk for review, proper filing, and recording. Before, you had 3 distinct avenues. You had the city via the city clerk. You had the CRA via the city director, or CRA director. Your liaison person, the one in the middle that bridged the two, was your administrator. Without all having equal rights within that oversight, you know, you fall down to where you have your city and you have your director. Now, part of this agrees that the CRA will communicate effectively and present all required documentations for the oversight of the Growth Management Director. Gentlemen, I haven't received any financial information so far this year. The only information that we have been able to accrue is having direct oversight into the accounts, both the money market and the CRA expense account. With those, I have been able to reconcile by hand the monthly statements. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to do that per month. It's not a big ordeal. Your household budget is harder to reconcile than the two accounts. Now, without proper reporting, without some type of communication, it is very difficult in order to administer anything. Now, I would like to tell you that it will be fully trusting in that everything would go smoothly. I would like to tell you one example. When it was necessary for an administrator to raise a red flag. On August 24th, 2017, monies were transferred for the FERDAP grants into the checking account. Those FERDAP grants were brought forward by a prior director. They worked with public services in order to get those qualified, and through the grant master, they were presented to the CRA board. CRA was fully in favor of providing the funding to the city in order to facilitate the FERDAP grants and then be reimbursed at the conclusion when it was built correctly and the state refunded the money. Gentlemen, the minute that the money was transferred, the city requested checks. Without an overseer, 2 $50,000 checks would have left the CRA and went into the city's realm. Gentlemen, I had to be a fly in the ointment, and I'm sorry. We've had full discussions with the chairman and the reasoning for the request. Yes, you had approved the funding for the city. Keep in mind, city's a multi-million-dollar corporation, and you are a million-dollar corporation, but still there are rules and regulations. My response to the city was that my understanding that the city needs to present a formal request to the board to be approved, and checks would be issued upon the approval of an agreement to repay the monies. Well, gentlemen, this went back and forth for a little bit, few weeks. Within a few weeks, it was agreed, and even Cara Leone had given her insight on it, that yes, indeed, you needed an agreement. Gentlemen, without another set of eyes watching your finances, not a city eye, not a CRA eye, an independent set, looking for the well-being of both the city and the CRA, you would not have had an agreement of understanding where you could forward and loan the city $100,000. You had paperwork in your hand that facilitated how it would be granted, what the process would be, and upon the completion of the projects, how it would then be repaid back to the city, from the city to the CRA. And it also was the caveat, if the state of Florida actually refused to pay those FERDAP grants, that the city would reimburse the CRA the $100,000 that they were putting out. So gentlemen, without another set of eyes, you would not possess this document. So, as hardworking as our ladies are, there needs to continue to be the oversight abilities for the administrator in order to just help everything be transparent, everybody be knowledgeable, and if they are about to fall into a misguided mistake, somebody else is there to voice advice or at least pose a question. Hey, have we looked at this? And gentlemen, that's primarily what I have to say. I think you need to consider the changes in your assurances very carefully. And is there any
Thank you,
questions?
Teresa. Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Denise.
And this is, I don't know if that's me or not.
Ken, take off your headwear.
Yeah, we're good. With this assurance that we're looking at, was there any coordination between you and the CRA director?
No, sir, there was not.
Okay. And then my question would be to the CRA director, was there any coordination between you and the administrator?
Yes, sir, we did discuss it at a meeting with, Mr. Wood.
This,
I'm talking about prior to being written.
Yes, sir. No.
No.
I discussed whether it could be done with the lawyer and with the finance department to see if they were willing to do this prior to doing these assurances, because I'm not going to put this before the board if the city clerk and finance director did not agree to it. As soon as I did get their agreement that yes, this can be done along with the lawyer, then we did discuss it with Teresa. And I do have some comments to make regarding what she just said.
okay, that was this past Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. President.
It was Wednesday
Yeah.
before the last.
Mr. President, I have the floor? Thank you.
Yes, you do.
Okay, the appearance of, and I don't know if it's, well, yes, I do know it to be true. I know there's not a working relationship between the CRA director and administrator. For reason being, I don't know, but I know it's not there. I realized that when we had the administrator, there's supposed to be that working relationship and coordination between them. I don't see it, and I think it's an issue. That's all I have to say, Mr. President.
What I'd like to do this time is I'd like to call on our CRA attorney, because we have someone to raise the consideration about oversight. Would you address whether it's something we should be concerned about or not?
Well, I would start with going toward the ordinance that was cited by Teresa, and as far as the changes that were previously made on 1598, with the assurances as it's drafted right now, those are still current and proper. There wouldn't need to be any changes to them, especially the fact that 2-107 at the end, it talks about general agency oversight will be with the city council as the governing body and any city designated department. So in this case, what we're proposing, or what's being proposed, is for the financing to go through the city financing, which is not unusual for CRAs. Again, we're talking about here a process question. I think either way, there's no legal hurdles, or you're not worrying about any. So the question is, are you going to be able to do things properly with one or the other of the systems? And we changed it. We had the growth management director overseeing both the financial and the administrative. And now it's being proposed that the financial goes through the city accounting or the financing department, which is arguably someone who's more of a authority on financing. And again, it's more typical that it is done that way. But I think what the contentions are is that who's overseeing it generally, and really it is the CRA director who is overseeing the CRA. Who in the city is, so she's getting assistance from both the growth management department and finance in this proposed declaration. It's certainly legal. The question is it sufficient? And what role is a CRA administrator supposed to have in that arrangement if we go with the finance director is helping with the financing? My understanding is that the CRA would still be overseen or still have the administrative oversight by the growth management director. In other words, she'd still get reports, she'd still have an oversight. The thing about the grants, she would still be able to raise a red flag and say, I don't think that this is done properly, you need additional paperwork. That's administrative, arguably, so she could still say that, and would be proper for her to say that. A concern that, yes, in this arrangement, a check could be written because she's not signing on the account, could be a concern, but if she's raising a red flag, then everyone goes at their peril if someone's saying we shouldn't do it or we're not ready to write a check. So I think we still would have that procedural oversight, at least what I understand from the director as what, you might remember last time when we talked about this, I had asked the CRA director some questions that's not reflected in the minutes, but I asked her about, well, what is it exactly you're trying to do? And she kept saying the finance aspect of the CRA would be going through the city finance. And that seems appropriate. She's not cutting out the growth management director, but she's getting additional assistance from a finance department from the city. So again, if you think procedurally it's okay and it will work, then I don't see any legal hurdles or any legal obstacles doing it this way. We may want to clarify things. We might want to have something additional as to what's the administrator's duties and roles, but I think that you can still proceed with this arrangement as proposed.
Thank you, Dr. Leone. I'd like to see, Mr. Cox, you have a question? I'm going to bring the CRA director back up.
Yes, this proposed declaration of assurances, are there more than one page to this document?
Yes, sir, there's
Because
three.
I only have
3 pages.
one page. I'm missing.
I don't have it either.
Did they not copy
And-
over?
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
have
that,
it either.
that was in the packet.
I don't
Had
have
it
it
in
in
y'all's
mine.
book, I don't know.
I don't have it, Mr. President.
Yeah.
It's
The
the-
other
Yeah.
comment was, I thought the, one of the issues was a potential money saving because we're paying two different accounting agencies annually
Yeah.
for auditing, so,
That was part of it.
okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
I got page 2, that's all I have. And it's difficult to see the other portion of it before you get to that. I like to see if I can get that so I can look at it, at least, you know.
I put it in the email, I mean, the whole thing was in the email packet I sent out.
Understand that,
Yeah.
I understand that, but
Okay.
we we look at emails,
Yeah.
and we operate with hard
Oh,
copies.
I understood, I just don't know how that.
My opinion, because Mr. Cox doesn't have what he needs.
I
Mr.
don't have it.
Galen, this is not ready for prime time.
No.
Okay,
I don't believe it is, because we can't study what we don't know.
Okay. And I understand that, but I would like to make a few comments, if I may.
You had the
Yep,
floor now.
yep. I will say that, Mr. Hayes, you are correct. There is not a very good working relationship between me and Growth Management, with CRA Director and Growth Management. I deeply regret that, but that really has nothing to do with this situation. There will be, all reports will still go to Growth Management, and is in the essence that she brought up about the $100,000. CRA can't write a check for $100,000 without bringing it to y'all first. So, of course, that would have been caught. And at that time, I was new. I wasn't the CRA director. The growth management person was acting as the CRA director. So at that time, yes, it was great that she caught that. And I'm grateful that she did, because it was done properly. But it doesn't mean that and assume that anybody else working the finances wouldn't catch the same thing. The city accountant wonderfully manages all the departments within the city and does a great job of oversight. I have given her the CRA purchasing manual, and it is about this thick, whereas the city's purchasing manual is about this thick. She's quite capable of overseeing the finances. That's all I'm asking. And in regards to the oversight that the CRA director is supposed to be receiving, and the false statement that she has never received financial statements, and that she did all the reconciliations. I've done all the reconciliations since I've been here, and I have proof of it in my computer. She may have done it by hand also, but that's just her choice. And it was not made clear to me by the person that's supposed to give me oversight that I did not submit the finances, and I did not get the bank statements for October through February until a couple weeks ago when I asked for them. So I can't do a financial report. I was not told that I haven't done it. It was not flagged to me that I needed to do something that I didn't do. I am new. I am still learning. And nothing was flagged to me that I needed to do that. If somebody had flagged me, I would have gladly done it. And as soon as I got all the bank statements, I did the report and sent it out. I am not removing her as oversight of any administrative duties. I'm just adding the finance director in place of the accountant, and to oversee the bank statements and monies sent. She is not being removed as oversight of the CRA on the administrative end. And that is clear in the statements. And if y'all want, we can, vote on it next.
I think we need to,
Yeah.
because we're
I
not
just wanna make
prepared
that clear.
to act on this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion.
And I like to add one other thing. We're in discussion anyway. And it's admitted that there's friction, which I really don't like, but that's something they
Neither
have to
do I,
work
sir.
out. Like I said, with the part that's missing, and the next full report that we get, I would like for the CRA director to state to me in writing why this is a better solution than the previous one.
In writing? Sure.
Yes.
I will gladly send out an email in writing.
No. Emails get lost, and
Okay.
I glance at them. I get so many.
Already-
I want a hard copy of things.
I already have a hard copy. I would gladly email and put it in your box. I will do both.
And the difference of why one is better than the other.
Okay, I sure will do that.
Mr. Goddard, you had a remark? Or
Yes,
question?
I'll withdraw my motion till we get further information.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Cox?
I rescind my second.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to,
The interlocal agreement. I think that's-
find where we are here. Interlocal agreement between Okaloosa County. In our meeting with Mr. Whitten, I think we discussed that the Resolution 1801, that the city manager would go over that with y'all, but. We don't have a city manager, Mr. Wilson.
I'm sorry. Growth management. But if y'all want to, y'all can look at 1801, where it was talking about the resolution. This is between, this is just the agreement that we came up with in our, that public hearing meeting we did in regards to the changes to the plan that was requested by the county. If y'all look at Resolution 1801, the main thing it's talking about is that the adding an additional member to CRA board into that, and extending the term. This is just the CRA resolution that goes with the city resolution y'all will be voting on 1809 at the next meeting. This is just the CRA's portion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Fairclough.
Section 1 of this interlocal agreement, the foregoing recitals, I don't have foregoing recitals.
Nope.
Okay, this was written by the attorney and gone through growth
But-
management. This is a resolution. This is not, this is, I don't, honestly,
But I'm not going to support something that I don't know what it is. because
honestly, I'm with you. I don't know what that is
It refers
either.
to the foregoing recitals, and I don't have any foregoing recitals. That's missing.
If I might.
Yes, Dr. Leone, please.
What that's referring to are the whereases before that.
About those two.
Should, normally, instead of where it says witnesseth on page 1, that usually says recitals, but that's what that's intended to refer to, is all of those paragraphs.
Okay,
that
so
say
these other recitals are different recitals.
Other
You
recitals.
you on the resolution 18-01?
Yes, I am.
That's just one page. And so the recitals are the two whereas
Oh,
above
okay,
it.
yeah, that's the same.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it was referring to
Yes,
that
it is.
because we've got another
It's-
set of recitals back here that are missing.
Yeah, but that's a different issue.
Okay, I know, but
Okay, again, on the resolution, where it says foregoing recitals, what it's referring to are those two whereases clauses above it. And it probably more accurately could say recitals above that, so you would know that that's what it's referring to, but that is typically what it refers to when they say foregoing recitals, they mean those paragraphs above.
Mr. President, these are the agreements we had with the county at that big workshop we had. Mr. Hayes?
Okay, Mr. President, thank you. On this right here, and in the second whereas, and it gets down to additional member, but shouldn't it be noted on there, this is a non-voting member?
I think that would be more accurate, I know you could.
Because
add
that's what
that
we
to-
voted, that's what we
Yeah, we
voted
did.
on, was a non-vote member.
Yep.
And it's not stated in this resolution right here.
We could say, could we insert an additional non-voting member?
Yes.
An additional ex officio.
Ex officio,
non-
yeah.
non-voting.
And
And
if
that
I-
again is in the agreement, just so you know, we were very careful to make
Yeah.
sure that that was in there, but yeah, it would be more accurate to agree.
And Mr. President, the
You
one I
may
got,
address
the one I got from attorney had that in there.
Yeah.
But this right here doesn't have it in there.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think I got it from, somebody sent one
I'd
out.
have to
It was the
check.
county.
That was the
county
county,
sent
that,
one out.
yeah,
Had
that was the
noted.
county one.
Okay, the county had one out, and it was detailed in
A
that.
resolution or,
That's the interlocal agreement he's talking about. In that one,
I don't
it
know,
is
is it?
specific.
Yeah, the county sent one out, and it had in there about there would be a non-voting
and the
member.
interlocal
And
agreement.
that, if we found that they were basically unsatisfactory or negligent in duty, that they could be replaced with another one of the council's selections.
And if I might, that is in the agreement. That's the agreement that this resolution is approving, yes.
Approving that interlocal agreement, but you just, what you're quoting.
This is
Yeah,
kind of,
but it doesn't say that what I'm looking at here in this
It
resolution.
doesn't say what.
It doesn't say about the non-voting member?
Well, we're adding that to
Oh,
make it
okay.
more complete.
Mr. President, go ahead. Mr. Cox has it.
Teresa, you have something?
I'm just gonna help clarify it. In your council packet, ordinance 1657, is the ordinance that will be changing, chapter 2, and it describes in, section 2-98, members of the Board of Commissioners, and it spells out an additional, ex-official, non-voting member of the board shall be appointed by the Okaloosa County Board of Commissioners pursuant to the terms outlined in the interlocal agreement between Okaloosa County, City of Crestview, and Crestview Redevelopment Agency.
That's where you
That's
said.
what I read.
That's
That's
what you
where
saw.
you've probably seen it, and that's what goes into our code of ordinances.
Okay, I know, this right here doesn't say that
Well,
per
we'll
se
add.
though, what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, should it be in there, or?
Yeah, well, I think it would be more complete if we added it, so let's add it to make it clear.
All right, we can add that.
So we're gonna add after additional, say ex officio non-voting member.
Would that be necessary, would that be bring it up to a point where we could vote on it?
I think so, yeah, as long as we're specifically saying how we're changing it, so.
I can live with that, Mr. President.
All right, Mr. Clark, you had a comment? No, I thought you did.
Ready to
Yeah,
roll.
Mr. Clark.
Well, following up on what Mr. Hayes just said, so I highlighted, who drafted this?
I did.
Attorney.
But I mean, now this resolution and the county's resolution totally, they don't coincide with each other.
No.
So the information, you're gonna correct this though, period. Non-official member, et cetera. But this right here don't allude to that at all.
And we're
So-
still talking about that phrase,
We're talking about the adding this other member.
right?
That's been a great concern, but I think a little bit more verbiage ought to have been put into this.
Okay.
We just did. We just did.
We added that in, Mr. Clark.
As long as it's in there, period.
All right, could I have action then?
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Cox.
I move to approve Resolution 18-01.
With
Have a
the
motion to
additional-
approve resolution.
With the additional verbiage ex officio.
Second.
I can second.
Okay, motion second. Any more discussion? Go to voting. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Is that agreement signed by the county and the city and CRA?
Yes. Yes.
So it's gonna have to be changed in all of them.
That's right.
Well, this is only the resolution for the CRA that they're speaking to, and I'm not sure if the city's resolution, I also need to add that
It
language.
has
It's-
everything in there.
But keep in mind that the agreement has it and the ordinance change has it, so it's just adding it to this resolution.
Okay, CRA attorney, you got anything else to share with us? Did we get a check in the mail?
We did, we got our monthly check, I'm happy to report. And just a thought that I'm thinking about maybe in the future, depending on time we have, is I could use this time to talk about ethics rules and maybe just highlight a particular ethics rule every month, just to help people stay refreshed. I know you guys do training. For example, that you are not allowed to communicate with each other about items you might vote on outside of the public hearing.
Yeah.
Something to remind you of,
That would be a good point.
that's all.
Just let us know when you want to address that. We'll give you the time to do it.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
and along Ms. Loney's line, would it be wise if one of our board members is out of line or not following ethical things, that you contact them and let them know?
Yes, and if I'm aware of it, I try to do that for
Okay,
your information.
because we can get burned on that.
I know you can, and you're not the only ones. It happens to many public groups, but that doesn't, in ignorance is never an excuse. Saying, oh, I made a mistake, I didn't know, is never very helpful. So I try to help you with that. And keep in mind too that I'm the best source you have with respect to questions on ethics rules. I'm confidential, you can talk to me, and if there's even a question about anything that you have, feel free to contact me, and I will be happy to talk with you.
You know I do. Okay, Growth Management Director, you have anything for us?
Take it down to just, is this one on? We have had a meeting with our CRA, the Building Improvement Grants Review Committee. We are working on a grant for improvements at Main Street Suites for John Colby, and we will be meeting on the 12th for one submitted by Tracy Tonan, which is facade improvements for the Casbah Coffee. So, and we have had a third one submitted, however, it is incomplete, so the word's getting out that CRAs in business with grants.
Good.
We do have a couple of partnerships that we will be submitting in the next month or so. So it's word's getting around that we're gonna have a new plan, and it's going to offer the citizens a much more flexible way to be able to work it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the public? No comments, questions. Any last minute thing, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I believe in teamwork. And I don't know if I'm in order or the attorney can let me know. I'd like to mandate that the CRA director and the CRA administrator communicate with each other at least once a week. I don't know if you can do that. Attorney, can we do that?
Well, you're directing them on a process for your
Well, that-
department, your agency. I don't think that that's bad or illegal in any way.
That's my recommendation, Mr. President.
Thank you. That should be happening anyway.
I know,
don't
but
if
it's
it does
not.
or not, but it should be.
But if I mandate, can I make a motion?
That you direct them to meet
Yes.
with respect to CRA
Yes.
business?
Yes.
I don't see why not.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that the CRA director and the CRA administrator communicate with each other at least once a week.
Eye to eye or written?
Is that a second?
Second.
Motion second that we
Mr. Chairman,
mandate.
I'd like clarification, please.
Well, we're in discussion now, so you get it.
Okay.
You got it now. You're on.
Okay. Is this going to be an eye-to-eye visit or a written communication?
What's Mr. Hayes recommending?
I consider communicating
Person to person.
person to person. Emails might get lost. Your letter you sent to me, I might not get. But if I see you face to face, I know I spoke with you. And
You-
that's my interpretation of communicating
Well,
with
what-
one another.
Why don't you amend your motion to say that, so it'll be real clear.
I can
Face to face
definitely
meeting.
do that. Well, out of the discussion, then can I
Any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Walker.
One comment I'd like to include, well, he's gonna make an amendment in a minute.
You can make an
And get it
amendment, Mr.
correct.
You can make an
Amend this,
amendment.
that every person involved with the CRA, living person, works from the same information and stay in the same loop and work from the same page, period.
Yeah, that's a statement.
That's communication, yes.
That's a statement, okay.
Mr. President, I'd like
Yes.
to amend my motion to, that communicating be a face-to-face communication, and it's communicating one another at least once a
Weekly
week.
basis, okay.
With the
Keep-
time not being specified, even if they could just say hello to each other.
And your second stands, Mr. Fairwell. Mr. Goddard?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. And that's it. Meeting is adjourned.